What's up YouTube, and welcome to my pickups video for the month of February 2025. Ended up being a pretty busy month of travel and also a great month of pickups. A lot of cardboard to show this month. A lot of upgrades for my collection as well. Really, as far as where the month went, a couple weeks into the month, I realized that I had been working way too much this year and took a 3-day weekend and kind of just threw a dart at a board and figured out where I wanted to go on very short notice and decided to go to Northern California. So I had a nice little 3-day weekend visiting San Francisco, Berkeley, Oakland, San Jose, and kind of that whole Bay Area. And I will tell you, there are a lot of game stores there, some of which I had never visited before. Some really good stuff out there. Honestly, the prices were full. There were really no deals, but there was some really cool stuff to see, and so just definitely recommend checking out that area, especially if you're a big Sega fan. Sega's U.S. arm used to be headquartered in South San Francisco, and so I just think naturally there's a lot more Sega stuff in that market than you typically see in the rest of the U.S. But got a few things from that, and then I followed that up with a work trip to Kansas City. I got one thing there. And then ultimately got a bunch of stuff on eBay and locally this month as well. So let's go ahead and get started. We'll talk first about some portable games for Game Boy and Game Boy Color. First one of these was one of my Bay Area finds. The store had a lot of good stuff, just ultimately I was trying to be careful because it was early in my trip and I didn't want to blow all my money in this store. But one thing I had to have was Chase HQ for the Game Boy, complete in the original box. And this game had several variations and sequels on the Game Boy and Game Boy Color, but this was the original pressing by Taito. Some of the early Taito games got repressed by Natsume later in the Game Boy life, which was kind of strange, but we also saw that with some of the Sunsoft games as well, getting repressed, where they would do represses for other companies like Square, Data East, and others. So very strange how some of that worked out on the Game Boy, but this one had the original, it's not sealed, but it had the original shrink wrap around most of the box, and what I left on it was the original price tag from a store I'd never heard of before, called Adri Mart, and this was a electronics chain in the LA area, is what I read, that is now defunct and has been for several years. So apparently that's what somebody originally bought the game for back in the early 90s for $27.95. So thought that was kind of cool, just decided to leave that on there. I do like the Chase HQ series. I don't think the Game Boy is probably the best way to play it, but I do like the artwork on the Game Boy version with the Ferrari Testarossa on the cover. It's very cool. And then, of course, since I own a Porsche 928, that is the actual character car in the game, so that's an actual affinity for me as well. But interesting to have this complete in the box. I've had a loose copy for years, and so I'm going to upgrade that. And then fast forward another day on the California trip, and I found one of the other sequels for portable systems. So this is Chase HQ Secret Police for the Game Boy Color. You also had Super Chase HQ that was on the black and white Game Boy that came out in between these two games. And so I figured, well, while I'm on the track of getting these complete, I might as well get another one complete. And so this one has a last of the air-cooled 993 generation Porsche 911 on the cover, which is also very cool. And I think this one's really just more like an enhanced version of the original black and white game. I know Taito had kind of farmed out some of the development of their portable games by this point, so I don't even think they really had a hand in creating this game. And then the very short-lived US publisher, Metro 3D, published this here, but they really weren't around very, very long. So cool artwork on that one as well. Again, another upgrade. I had this one loose, and so decided to go for another one. So I guess now I need to get a Super Chase HQ complete, but very cool to have those. And then the other game that I got for Game Boy Color, this one came from eBay very early in the month. This is one I've wanted for a long time complete. It's very, very hard to find. This is Sergeant Rock on the Front Line for Game Boy Color. And you might be thinking, I've never even heard of that character before, so what's the deal with that? Very obscure DC Comics character that they decided to use to market this game in the US only. But this game actually has a little bit more interest than that. So this was actually based on the Taito arcade game Frontline, so therefore that's why you have the subtitle there. And in Japan, this was released as like Frontline DX or something like that, and essentially it's an enhanced version of the original arcade game that came out in 1980, I believe. It was a very early arcade game for Taito. If you play games like Commando, it's very much alike with that, but actually Taito's game came first, and a lot of people kind of talk about Commando-like games, but Frontline actually was an earlier game. And then for the US, they decided to put the Sergeant Rock branding on it, which is kind of strange. So very cool to get this complete in the box. Like I said, I think it is neat artwork, even though the character's kind of unknown. And really, once you're inside the game, I think other than a title screen, it's the exact same thing as the Japanese version. The Japanese version of this for Game Boy Color is also a very expensive title, so I almost wonder if it's some Japanese gamers that are buying these US copies of this, driving the price up, because it actually might be cheaper to get it this way. So, actually a fun game, definitely worth checking out, and I already went ahead and sold my loose extra cart of this, so happy to get that one complete too. Alright, let's talk about NES. This was a big month for NES, and it wasn't planned to be, so it just happened to come across several upgrades for my NES collection while out game hunting, both locally and on my travels. So, first one of these was one that I got in Kansas City at one of the chain stores out there. This is a Color Dreams game, which was actually put out on their sub-brand of Bunch Games. And this is Mission Cobra, which was one of the unlicensed titles for the NES. I like getting these Color Dreams games complete in the box. They're usually very difficult to find, especially in stores. And typically a lot of the sales were to rental stores, so to find one of these that isn't all peppered up with rental store stickers is actually a big plus. It had the original Color Dreams sleeve inside and all that too, so that was just a nice little bonus. This one's also notable. It is a shooter, which is cool, and it's not as horrible as most of the other Color Dreams stuff, because this was actually developed by a Taiwanese company named Sashin, that Color Dreams licensed several of their titles for US publishing, and I think that's why they came up with the Bunch Games sub-label, primarily for some of those Sashin releases. So, not the best shooter by any means, but it's actually somewhat playable, and just very happy to get another one of these weird unlicensed titles complete in the box for NES. And then that kind of takes us to my local store, and some of the things that they started popping up. One of my friends, Bob, decided to tip me off every time they were posting on Facebook, because I don't do Facebook, and is like, hey, you're probably going to want some of this stuff, and you better snap it up quick. So one day, about a week ago, they posted a large collection of box-only NES titles that the story I heard was that somebody whose parents used to run a video store locally in St. Louis, it had closed down probably back in the 90s, and like all the empty boxes that they used for display in the store just got stuck in a closet somewhere. The kid found all this stuff and decided to trade it all into the game store, not even knowing if it was worth anything, but there's actually some really good titles in there. So, first one of these is also another unlicensed title. This was, again, just a box only, but I needed it. And this is for Mermaids of Atlantis, the Riddle of the Magic Bubble is the subtitle on this one. Very weird, just puzzle game for the NES that American Video Entertainment, which was another unlicensed company, put out. This one is a little bit notorious because this also was rebranded by the publisher Panesian, who is also unlicensed, as a porn game called Bubble Bath Babes. And so if you've heard of that, this is actually the same game as Bubble Bath Babes, just with no nudity. And so you have your mermaid characters, but that's about as spicy as this one gets. So very weird to find this one. The box, I don't think I've hardly ever seen this box before, so I had to grab this. And then I actually do need a manual for this one still, so I'm going to hunt that down. But I've had a cartridge for this, obviously, for many years, so very happy to get that. And then another one that came from the same lot, this was just one that's been on my list for a while that I wanted boxed, and so they had it box only. I already had the cart and manual, is Shatterhand by Jalico, and I think it was actually developed by Natsume. Great action game for the NES. I think most people know this game now. It used to be kind of considered a hidden gem, but now like the word is definitely out. And just kind of crazy 90s artwork on the cover, but it is very fun to play. And just happy to have this one complete after many, many years. So, spent quite a bit of money just on those two boxes. That week, there were a few others that came in with the same lot I decided to pass on. Either I already had them, or just not as interesting to me, so I decided to go for those. And then fast forward to a couple days ago, my friend Bob pings me again and is like, hey, they got more stuff in. And so now somebody traded in a whole bunch of complete-in-the-box NES titles that were in really pristine condition. And I decided to be picky, again, about what I wanted to get. I decided not to go for some of the other titles that actually look pretty appealing. But I'm really happy with what I did get out of the collection, because these, I think, also were going to go very fast. So, first one of these is a game I already had complete in the box, but this one is, like, extra complete. And so I considered this one an upgrade, so I'm going to sell off my other bits from my other complete copy. But this is a top 5 game on the NES for me, so I had to have this one, like, really pristine. and that is the original Ninja Gaiden. Love this game. I'm sure don't really need to give any major introduction to it, but it is absolutely a great playable title on the system. Never had it as a kid, and so this was one that I did have to chase down later on to get it complete, but now seeing this one, definitely had to get it. So, of course, you have your cartridge, black sleeve, and manual, all in nice condition, had all that stuff already. But where this one goes a little bit further is it has the flyer for a Tecmo watch promotion, and I think you actually might have gotten a Ninja Gaiden watch, not just this generic watch that they show in the picture, but just a little flyer for that. You have your Nintendo Power flyer, of course, and then it has a Tecmo poster in it, which sort of features Ninja Gaiden, but it's really just more about like some of the other Tecmo titles at the time. So has some Ninja Gaiden screenshots and stuff on the bottom, so kind of neat to see that. But this one, like I said, was in very nice, complete condition, so I decided it was worth the upgrade, and then, of course, selling off my other copy. And then on the same note, they also had Ninja Gaiden 2, complete in the box with very nice condition. Not quite as nice as the Ninja Gaiden 1, but still very much an upgrade over the one I had. So again, we have black sleeve, very nice clean cartridge, manual, of course. And then this one has bonus goodies in the box as well. So let me show you those real briefly and get all that stuff out. This one has the Tecmo Watch promotion as well. It has a Nintendo Power flyer, has the good old epilepsy warning, and then it has another Tecmo poster, which is very similar to the other one, except this one has some details on Ninja Gaiden 2 and other Tecmo titles, of course. So very fun getting those as a nice upgrade. They also got a Ninja Gaiden 3 in the same collection, but it didn't have anything extra in the box beyond just the cart and manual, and I already had all that, and so I assume that that one didn't come with all the goodies, since the owner of these was so good about keeping the stuff in really nice shape. So I'll have to find out. Maybe there is some bonus stuff with Ninja Gaiden 3 that neither my copy had or that one, but that one's a more expensive game anyway, so I decided to hold off on that for now. And then the last one of these I got from that same lot is one of my favorites on NES as well. This one I had cart and manual, but I did not ever have the box, and this one had all kinds of goodies inside of it too, so let me get that ready for you to show. But this one is part of the Kunio-kun series, which is one of my favorites on the NES, and it was the last title that came out in the US, which is Crash and the Boys Street Challenge, which is a mix of different like mini games and sports activities that you have with all the Kunio-kun characters. Very fun game. I've always loved playing this game for years, and also considered it one of the hidden gems on the NES that's now been discovered. Fun artwork on the box, and just always wanted to have this box, so very happy that they came in with that. And then, of course, a nice clean cartridge and manual for this one. This one, the manual is like extra thick as well. But what made this one special was all the bonus stuff with it as well. So has, of course, the epileptic seizure warning. It has a American Technos warranty card, which is cool to see. Nintendo Power ad. And then what I really like about this one is it has the American Technos poster, which was of the era of like very late NES and early Super Nintendo, and so it was just kind of highlighting some of the games that they came out with during that time. So it has Super Bowling for Super Nintendo and Comba Tribes on Super Nintendo, which was an arcade game. But what is really neat about this poster is it has the unlicensed version, or not unlicensed, the unreleased game in the series. There was supposed to be a Crash and the Boys Ice Challenge, and there is a Kunio-kun hockey game that I have on Famicom, which is great. This was a translated version of that actually never released, but it has the mock-up of the box art. It looks super cool. I wish we would have got this game, and very neat to have that just on the poster as advertising that they were planning to release. So yeah, like I said, a lot of goodies in those boxes. Just really happy to have those as upgrades, and of course selling off my lesser copies that I already had. So just a few more things to go. Early in the month, I also had my local friend Lenny came by and did a trade for a game that he wanted for my collection, but he also gave me a free black NES sleeve, which I'm trying to get a full set of these for all my cartridges. So nice to have another extra of those. I did also have a great eBay win early in the month where I got a very clean manual for Windy, the Every Which Way, I couldn't remember the subtitle, for Game Boy Color, or Game Boy Advance, I should say. And this is a game that I had the box of manual that I've owned for several years that's very expensive now, and I just never had the manual. So now I have a complete copy of this, which is very cool. And very fun game also for the Game Boy Color. And then another eBay win early in the month was I got a couple more issues of 90s Game Informers. I'm trying to get the full set of all the 90s Game Informers, and I'm getting very close. But I got 2 issues from 1996, which is really the year that I have some gaps in my collection. I thought this one was particularly cool. This is a issue for the original Resident Evil on PS1, and has really great Japanese artwork on the cover that before the series took off and they started, putting this on every magazine cover, this was a very early one, so I think this is really cool to see. Obviously, I had a feature on the game, and then also one for Tabal #1, which was kind of unusual to see that make the cover. It really wasn't one of the most heralded fighting games in the US, nor do I think it was a hit, but neat to see that made the cover of a 96 Game Informer as well. So, gets me a little closer to a full set of those. Once I finalize that, I'm planning to make a video on those, but I think I need about 4 more issues first. So yeah, ended up being a pretty big month. Hopefully this was interesting to see all the cardboard upgrades for the collection. Thank you very much for watching. Please take a moment, like, comment, subscribe, let me know what you think, and I will talk to you soon. Have a great day or night, wherever you are.